Well, a lot of people think a lot of different reasons, and like I said, I don't think there's anybody that knows for sure, because they're all guess. They've never been in my shoes, and so what we do is we rely on a bunch of people who tell us that they're smarter than us and more educated because they have a degree, or they think that when a person tells me this, it means this, and when another person says no, when he says this, it really means this, but he's hiding his feelings. And so we rely on experts who aren't even experts at anything. They're only experts because they speak better, or they're more trusted, or they're more popular. And so the big band goes, oh, I'll be a psychologist. Okay, well, you're a psychologist. It means you listen. A psychologist means that you look trustworthy to spill your guts to. I mean, what are their qualifications? To follow guidelines that somebody else set for us? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Welcome back to Bizarre Bazaar, and in this episode we have the fourth instalment of my interview with Scott Kimball. I chose this segment because it shows this supreme confidence, a confidence that maybe only a psychopath could have. He's just 17 years old and he's moved to another country, and I know lots of people do that, but he's moved to another country at the age of 17 alone and is living a life of crime. To me, that just shows a real lack of fear or fear of consequences, and I think you need to hear what he had to say. This video will be in installments, so make sure you drop the video a like and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss future episodes. Before we start, if you want to write to inmates like I do, then use the service I use. It's called Jmail. It's fast and it's secure, and it means you don't have to use your home address. That's the main reason why I like it. I get physical letters sent to my house, but I don't give the inmates my address. I'll leave a link to their services in the description below. Just go check out the website. Can you tell us about being deported from Canada when you were just 17 years of age?
Yeah, I was in high school, and I'm this guy that's supposed to be. I'm getting ready to go to my senior year, and a buddy of mine who's quite a bit older. He was a jockey and he was racing the circuit up in Canada, and so I just took off like a wild adventure, kind of like a Mark Twain, and headed off to Canada. I said, you know what, I'll go to school later if I go back at all. When I got up to Canada, and I had figured out a way with these jockeys we could fix these races. We could fix the races on the horses and the betting. And so here I am. I'm a minor. I'm not even an adult yet. I'm out of country with no kind of a visa or any documentation. I'm up there living the big life, and I'm telling all these women that I'm much older than I am. And so I looked older. I always looked older. And so I had a lot of cash, and so I was up there. And I was betting all these women who were, like 25 and 26, and I wasn't even 18 yet. And got to fixing these horse races. I got all the jockeys together. I said, listen, we can make a whole bunch of money if you guys will fix some of these races. I said, I know you guys aren't making near as much money as you deserve. The government takes a big chunk of your paycheck. The owner of the horse takes a big chunk of your paycheck. And said, you guys could make way more money if we just rig some races. And they were like, there's no way we could do that. And so I'd sat down and I'd figure out exactly how to rig these races, and it was easy, but it took a few jockeys to work together. I told them all, I said, if you win a race now, you're going to make a certain amount of dollars, or if you bet on this race or have somebody bet on it, and you get a big jackpot on a low favorite horse that's got really high odds, to not win, and you guys can make a bunch of money. So I had figured out how we could rig these races. I was a 17-year-old kid up there with all these grown men drinking whiskey and partying and carrying on and womanizing, and we'd figured out how to. I told them, this is how we do this. We rigged this race in the first race. We rigged this race in the second race, and I bet all this cash, and they made 25, 30 times that week what they would.
This call is from a federal prison.
And then ended up getting deported. They came and arrested me one night at a pub. I was eating a patty melt sandwich, and drinking a Ryan Coke, and they came and arrested me, took me to immigration jail.
How did you actually fix the races?
So we get hold of all the jockeys, and we'd see which horse had the highest odds, like 80 to 1 or 60 to 1.
Yeah.
I'd have all them jockeys give me a certain amount of money, whatever they put into the pot, they got a percentage of. So if we had 6 jockeys in that race, and they all give me $300, and we would put all the money, I'd put all the money on the horse at 50 to 1 odds, and so we'd take that money and we'd split that up between all of us. And then the next race, we'd take a jockey that was riding a different horse that was a low odds, and he would, we'd be sure that his horse ran, and so it was just took cooperation. A jockey knows his horse, a jockey's going to get a bad start, or a jockey's going to hold up his horse, and so the nag that was, had the worst favorites to win would miraculously win the race, and so it was just a big deal. And so then I think someone finally got onto us, the racing commission did. It was like all these races, the favorite was never winning. So finally they figured that I was involved in this. All the jockeys played stupid. I was the American bloke that didn't have any paperwork. I was up there living like an adult. I was just this terrible juvenile delinquent that was up there causing problems on the race circuit.
You said you looked older than your years, but also your confidence. Your confidence is so supreme and definitely way beyond someone of 17 years of age.
Oh, absolutely I was. I mean, I grown up on a ranch, and so growing up on a ranch, there's a lot of equipment that's dangerous, and there's a lot of responsibility, and so you were treated like a man working on the ranch, even though you were a kid. You were treated like a man because you had to do a man's work, and so it came with a lot of responsibility. And once you get away with a couple crimes, I can do this, I can pull this off, and I kept getting slaps on the wrist. And so it was to me it was really, hey, there's a saying called the juice better be worth the squeeze. So if they're going to squeeze you, you better be sure you got the good juice. And so I was very confident. And after you're around those jockeys are short little guys. They walk like they're 10 feet tall. A jockey does. And so I got around those little fellers, and I'd always had confidence growing up. I was the one that always provided the older kids with the beer and the alcohol. I was always confident. I always had older girlfriends back then. It was a pretty big deal. I dated high school girls, but then I'd also date these older women that were like 21, 24, 25. So I just was really confident, and I think that kind of gives you confidence, and you get away with a few things and have a lot of money, and like I said, I always thought I was bulletproof.
When you were arrested, were you scared, or did the confidence remain throughout that?
Well, at first no, because at first no. The real RCMPs, they came and arrested me, and I'm like, what? I see like 5 or 6 of them start crowding these, coming in from different exits and entrances, and I'm thinking to myself, man, they're really looking for somebody, and I had no idea that was me. So the next thing you know, I see this guy looking at a photo, and photo was from the high school yearbook, and it was mine. And so I'm kind of like trying to hunch down. I go to the restroom, and I see the cops talking to the bartender and the waitress, and eventually they kind of cornered me. They arrested me, put me in the back of a cop car.
This call is from a federal prison.
They took me down to the local jail, and I spent the night in the jail. And then they actually took me to a providential prison. So I had an immigration hearing, and I think I spent the weekend there in this providential prison. Then took me to the federal court, and I saw the immigration judge, and he said, "Are you going to fight deportation?" And I said no. And I thought, well, they're going to keep me in jail, so I had to do all the paperwork. So they released me that day and said, "You have 10 days to leave the country." And so I partied hard and seen all my friends and hung out with my girlfriend until my 10 days was up, and I split back to Montana.
So again, you've avoided punishment for a quite a serious crime that most people would have been punished for. How is that?
Well, yeah, I was a juvenile, and I think their whole their whole aspect, or the whole thing was, there's an immigration judge, a federal immigration judge in Canada, and they couldn't really, how do they make, how are they going to get me to pay any kind of restitution? They couldn't really say, okay, he pays this or this. They weren't able to do that because there were several victims, but you couldn't identify one victim. Everybody got scammed on the horse races. Also, I think they felt really stupid that some American teenager come up there and was able to rig their races. I think they're really embarrassed by that. So they told me, you got 10 days to get out of Canada, don't come back ever.
That's absolutely mental.
Yeah, so then I go back to Montana, and I start my senior year. I was late. Senior year starts in September, and I was up there all of September, October, and part of November. And so I'm back home just in right time for Thanksgiving, and all my friends are like, "Yeah, we heard you got arrested in Canada." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got arrested." They're like, "Yeah, we heard you had to go to a real prison." I said, "Yeah, I went to go to a real prison." And they're like, "Yeah, that's so cool, man." And then some of the moms didn't want me to date their daughters because, like, yeah, he was in Canada. They're like, he's so bad they kicked him out of the country. And so that was kind of the deal. They're like, we didn't know anyone's ever been kicked out of the country before. So it was kind of funny.
It is crazy. And I guess when you got home, you had more street cred, more of an edge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was I had plenty of street cred. And then something else about high school is that I was kind of ornery, and I mean, all my friends who had some really tight group of friends, and they weren't really much of fighters, but they didn't they didn't work on the ranch. They weren't very strong, or they weren't very big, and so whenever we get in trouble somewhere, they'd always be I was always the one that fought their battles for them. I was always that person. So they'd talk really bold, and then as long as I was there to back them up. So it was this. I definitely had the bad boy reputation among the mothers and the school kids, and so I remember the mothers would always say, "Don't let your daughter date him."
And this was something you tried really hard to avoid, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was actually. In the past, if I'd got pulled over the police, or even gotten a ticket, or had to go to any kind of court, I would get up early in the mornings and go steal all the newspapers out of the newspaper machines. Or I'd stop by my girlfriend's house before her mom got off work and steal their newspaper, so she can read my name in the paper.
Did you ever go back to Canada?
Oh, I went back to Canada many times after that. And one time, I was unsuccessful. They stopped me at the border and turned me around. But I'd made many trips back to Canada, and I think that's kind of another story. But as we talk about this, I remember more things that happened, and so it's hard to just sum up your life in 3 or 4 emails. You know what I mean?
I hope you found that interesting. In the next instalment, I asked Kimball about the abuse he suffered as a minor. I think this is very significant, but until I bring it up, Kimball doesn't mention it, and we will take a look as to maybe why he didn't. Don't forget, this is an ongoing interview, so if you've got any questions for Scott, or you've noticed something, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay sane.